Hey there, class. Hope you're doing well. Apologies for this being a little bit delayed. Um, Hopefully you can still make your schedule work with getting everything done. Um, Today I'm going to talk about a couple things. I realized that my lectures and my slides in the last week and then this week and actually next week are going to be a little bit off. So I apologize for that. Everything should come together, and if you've been watching these and you've been consuming the information, you should be fine. So I'll help us get over the hurdle here a little bit, but just a heads up. I know last week I did a little bit of discussion on the financials, and then we talked about prototyping for our slides. I'm going to do a little bit of the same thing here. The slide this week is maybe a little bit simpler than last week. Um, so just as some information on what we're going to go through. Last week I talked about some financial stuff, and next week we'll actually be building our financial business model slide. We'll be doing a team slide. I'm going to talk a bit about the team today, but what actually we're going to put together today is our value proposition slide. So this shouldn't be that difficult, and I'll explain why closer to the end of the lecture. But just as a heads up, I'm really speaking about our team today. We spoke about our business model last week. I'll speak a little bit more on this next week. And then lastly, value prop we'll be talking about later today. But again, I apologize for getting off a little bit. My lectures just for some reason didn't line up exactly, but you should still get all the information, should still be uh, able to complete the projects. So today, like I mentioned, I want to talk, it's going to get into a little bit of the team aspect. The kind of topic is growing your business. I think you'll understand why it's related to team somewhat, but I'm going to talk today about um, growing your business, how we grow our business, why we grow our business, and kind of getting into some of that mentality. This shouldn't be that long of a lecture, so if you've started, hopefully you can stay on and get some good information here. All right. So you know maybe a simple, easy question is like, why do we look to grow? It may not be. Maybe it's just we looked. That's just what you do. Um, Maybe it's just super obvious. Maybe you haven't really thought about it, but there's a kind of a saying that's if your business isn't growing, shrinking, mainly because it's really difficult to stay exactly still. There's if you get some customers and you don't really do anything, there's a generally what happens is your business will slide backwards. There's always an attrition rate. Customers always go away. Whether businesses close down, whether they look for alternatives, whether there's not a need for what you're providing anymore, even if it's a good product or something like that, may not even be your fault. There's always an attrition rate of customers, meaning customers come and go. Um, so if you're not getting new customers, your business is likely shrinking. So we want to look to growth to continue our business purpose, having a reason to stick around. There's some other benefits that come from growth, increasing revenue and profitability. So as we learn more about our business, we're going to obviously when we bring in a new customer, increase that top line, but hopefully as we learn more over time, we're going to increase our profitability as well, meaning our costs or our cost per customer are going to shrink. So we're trying to kind of squeeze more out of our business as we look to grow. Then having new customers is going to create new opportunities for us. There's going to be new problems for us to solve, new places to innovate, new understandings, those types of things. As we grow, we have the ability to attract new customers, and the ability as we're innovating, we're going to have the ability to continue to retain new ones as we're able to kind of go into more areas and create ever more value for our customers. And then as we grow and we bring on more customers, frankly, it becomes easier to get more new customers as we have, as our pie gets bigger, attracting more becomes ever easier because more people kind of just inherently know about us, more word of mouth, more information out there about our business, which makes it easier for us to attract ever more customers. Kind of the last 2 points here, just as we grow, things get easier. I had a mentor who started his own business and ended up being huge. And, he said, when you're small, things are hard. And when you're easy, it's different. Or I'm sorry, when you're big, it's different. People basically come to you versus you having to go to them. So even when it comes to employees, banks, all that type of stuff, as you grow, this stuff gets easier. So we're looking to grow because we don't want to shrink. That's basically it. We're not looking to stay the same because staying the same size is essentially impossible. Because if we try to stay the same size, we're going to shrink. So we need to look to grow to continue our business. So that's why we want to think about growth kind of at all times when we're moving our business forward. So reinvesting in our business is one way that we fuel that growth and expansion. What does reinvestment means? Well, when we have profits, it means, rather than pocketing all of that and pulling it all out of the business, we need to mentally think, hey, no, I need to funnel a portion of this business or of this capital back into my business to continue me moving forward. That's going to allow us to do things like, pay for that R&D activity, pay for that innovation, pay for those new breakthroughs, try and test new markets, new solutions, those types of things. It'll allow us to be efficient and test efficiency and see, hey, how can we, if we spend in this area, does that give us a competitive advantage? Those types of things. Like I said, it'll enable innovation. It funds those types of activities and will increase our profitability over time if we're successful in doing those things. So the old adage of, you got to spend money to make money, right? By reinvesting too, what we're going to do is we're going to build a real business. We're going to build a business that, a true business has cash flow, meaning money comes in, money goes out, money comes in, money goes out. And hopefully, more money comes in than goes out to have a true business. But it's not like all the money, it's not like we're not just building a business to fund. Well, even if you're building a business to fund your lifestyle, that business is going to consume cash. It's not like if you just bring money in and you just pay yourself and you aren't paying for anything to sustain that business, somebody's going to come in and spend a little bit of money and be able to beat you. So you want to take a portion of that profits, put it into the business, use it to attract people to you, even if it's just marketing activities, innovative marketing activities. Marketing can be, innovation. Thinking about how do you use those dollars to retain talent. If you're a business that's, if you think you need Google engineers, well, you need to attract engineers away from Google. How are you going to do that? How are you going to create an environment, where somebody wants to come work for you that has alternatives, and reinvesting those dollars into the company to create a great work environment where people are incentivized is how you do it. It's not chance. It takes work. So a little bit back to our finance discussion. We really want to make sure that we're budgeting and forecasting so that we can properly plan, to set aside a portion of those profits that are coming into our business. So if you remember, Last week, we identified our revenue streams. We identified our cost and centers, both fixed and variable. And we basically created a cash flow statement, and then we showed that cash flow statement into the future, right? So we came up with some basic business model that then we can look back, after a month, after 2 months, after 3 months, and say, hey, how did it go? Were we close to our expectations? Where did we beat? Where did we miss? What did we expect? And if we, made profits and we've planned to spend a portion of those profits in the future, great. Now we can do that. Like we talked about last week, we want to use historical data to help us make those projections. And then I spoke about having a worst case, best case, most likely scenario. So kind of like 3 different scenarios on what we might be able to expect to give us kind of a cone of certainty on how we think our business will perform. And that'll produce a business model that, that we can kind of follow and plan against. We want to monitor our performance. So like I said, on like a monthly basis at least, and see how we're trending compared to our projections. And then we adjust. So if we find that our model's, way off base, we don't just leave it and we say, I guess I'm wrong. We'll see what happens. No, you want to adjust. You want to try to make things more accurate, more to reality. This is a tool that's supposed to help us, not hinder us. And you take a first stab at something, just like we've got our steps of improvement right on our 5-step philosophy. Same thing goes for building a business model. You take a stab, you do what you think, and then you improve, you iterate, and the process goes on forever. A business model is just that. It's a model. It's not reality. The reality of business is it's very messy. It's very sloppy. It's very uncertain. And you're just trying to get a sense of, hey, what do I think about's going to happen? How can I sleep at night in some respect? Okay. So doing all this stuff and giving those employees, that are coming to you, a sense of confidence requires, great leadership. Having this mentality of slow growth, incremental improvement over time requires great leadership, and hopefully the fact that you're here means you're thinking about, how to be a leader. Now, a leader isn't a dictator. A leader is different. You're not just a leader because you started the business. That's not what a leader is. Anybody can start a business. All you need in California to start a business is $800 to file an LLC, and congratulations, you're a CEO. That's not a leader. A leader's gonna, be out in front and communicating properly what's going on to the business, why the product or service is important, why pricing is the way it is. And that'll attract employees, it'll attract customers, and frankly, it'll ground the business in a reality that you create, and that makes it far easier to continue and manage a business. So you want to be very strategic in your thinking and planning. You want to have strong communication and interpersonal skills. And those are things that you can work on. So if you're not a strong communicator, that's not an excuse. You need to get better at communicating. You need to work on it. If you don't like working with people, that's not an excuse. You need to work on it. You need to get better. And again, these are things that you don't need to be great overnight, but you need to be conscious of what you need to be working on, and put those things into practice. You want to delegate. So you don't want to keep, if everything's on your plate as CEO, there's a problem. If you can't trust people to take on tasks and trust that they will do them effectively. Maybe they won't do them as great as you. Maybe it'll take them twice as long. In some respect, that's not important. What you're hiring people for is to alleviate you to do other things of greater importance. You're not hiring somebody to necessarily do the job as good as you. Now, that would be great. And in fact, if they could do it better, that'd be even greater. But you're hiring people to take things off your plate, regardless of whether they're as good as you at it or not. Now you need to match that up with maybe what you're paying them. But you want to make sure that you're able to delegate and get things off your work plate. You're going to have enough to worry about without having to think about, hey, did this person that I hire, are they able to do the job that I need them to do? We've talked about being adaptable and flexible many times. I think the next couple points here, visionary leadership. You want to have a direction of where you're going. That's what vision is, right? We've talked about that. You want to vision, being a visionary means you have a sense of how the world's going to change and where your business is going to be and how these things are going to kind of merge together. I think the next thing really, around risk management, that to me is really the most important thing about being a leader, especially when you have other people under your purview or underneath you. Like you're responsible for other people. So risk management is important for yourself. It's important for the business. It's important to identify the alternatives to the scenarios that you believe might happen. That's why on the financial side, having a low, a probable outcome, a amazing outcome, and like the worst case scenario outcome, and kind of thinking about those three scenarios is important. That's around risk management. And those are important things to think about. Okay, time management, obvious. You gotta think about where do you put your time to be most effective, and then as a leader, being customer focused, like your business isn't going to survive if you're not customer focused. So I think number one up there on that list of what makes a great leader was effective communication. If you think about a business, a business is just a bunch of apes, i.e. humans, communicating collectively to accomplish a goal. So if you're not able to effectively communicate, you're not going to be able to really do a whole heck of a lot, regardless of whether you're a solopreneur or a member of a team. You're going to need to at least communicate to customers. So if you can't communicate, good luck. These are a couple things that I've worked on around communication. One, I think one of the most important things about communication is listening. Like if you can listen to somebody when they're talking to you really effectively and shut everything out, shut that little voice in your head that's trying to prepare for what you're going to say next, that can be really, really important when it comes to communication. Mainly because now you've listened, you've heard what they're saying, and therefore you can properly respond. Then when you're communicating, slowing down, not being worried about a pause, thinking while you're talking, those things are really important. You need to be clear, you need to be concise, but you need to be, it needs to like come out in a way that somebody can even understand what you're saying. Asking questions, asking people if they understood. Those are all effective communication techniques. We call it active listening. If there's something you want to Google, I'd Google active listening and learn some active listening traits, because that can be very helpful in becoming an effective communicator. All right, you want to be open. You want to be, open to feedback, open to collaboration, open to other opinion. It's not your way or the highway. That doesn't work. You need to think about who you're communicating with and tailor your communication style. So, um, if you have a communication style, that's great. But if it doesn't match with somebody else's communication style, you need to think about how do you match these things up, because the means of communication can be just as important as what you say. So think about that. Um, Encouraging questions, asking, if people understood, if they have feedback, being open, being considerate, those are all important. And then, following up, having action items, putting things down on paper, putting calendar reminders down, having outcomes from meetings, those types of things. Those are all really effective. Um, the more you can put down, the more you can make sure people are on the same page. If the less assumption you can create, the better. Like I said, delegation is super, super important. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on delegation. This is just key. You need to get comfortable with other people doing things. You need to get comfortable with trust. Um, the business is just trust. When a customer gives you their money, they trust you to deliver something. So, frankly, somebody even doing business with you is just them delegating something to you to do, and they're willing to pay you money to have you do that. So, you know, that's really what that's really what business is. So while I do recognize that trusting people has an inherent uh, risk to it, you need to figure out how to get comfortable with that risk and frankly build that risk into your business model. Um, Delegation is key. I struggle with delegation too. I don't, you know, it's hard to inherently trust somebody, and there's this feeling of, well, if I trust them and they don't do it, the business won't work, and therefore I need to take it all on myself. And what that creates an environment where like basically everything just ends up being on your shoulders. And that's not sustainable. At some point that will cave. And you may be right, to be honest, depending on the point of your business, you may need to take certain things on, but you need to start thinking about how do you offload, how do you get rid of things, what's truly important to the business, what's truly important that you do that other people can't, and really try to shed as much as you can, and that requires delegation, both in the form of giving things to employees, but also if there are things that you could buy. Again, that's a form of kind of delegation to other people, outside of yourself. I think strong leaders have a tendency not to want to delegate, um, because it seems easier for you to do it all yourself, but then you get stuck in this cycle that's very hard to break if you don't do it. It's kind of last thing around leadership is being an effective communicator, um, uh, is part of it, but motivating, inspiring, reminding people why they're there, what you're doing, why it's important that you're doing what you're doing, is all super important. You want to motivate and inspire. You need to set goals, you need to set expectations, and you need to follow up on those goals and expectations. You need to inform people why maybe they're not meeting those goals and expectations. You need to recognize people when they've achieved those goals and expectations. All of that stuff. You want to create a positive working environment. You want to create an inclusive team culture. And uh, if you're confused by the word inclusive, simply means the opposite of exclusive. Okay, so I'm not making I know there's been lots of political discussion around inclusiveness in some respect. I'm not talking about that at all. What I'm suggesting is that an inclusive team culture is simply not an exclusive team culture, meaning come in. You want to create a team culture where people feel invited to come in. That makes no, that's it. It just is the opposite of excluding people. Include them. Now, if they self-select out and they don't if they don't select into the culture that you suggested and that you've created, fine. That doesn't matter. But allow them to self-select. Don't you select them out. Include them. Figure out how you can be more inclusive, because the greater people that you can attract to your mission and your objective, the easier your business will be to grow. And that includes, team, but that'll project itself out in the world in the form of customers as well. So being open is important. And it's motivating, to be honest. If you can figure out how your business is inclusive to everybody, man, you've excluded nobody. And now you can, attract anything you want. I think the other thing that's important on this list is celebrating successes and learning from failures. So I think as a founder, there's the successes are fleeting. Most of the time you're operating in failure mode, or it feels like failure mode, right? Like when you're working and you're in that incremental improvement step, like the hard thing of like I love the 5-step philosophy because I think it gives a mentality of like, hey, I'm always improving, right? I think the hard thing about that philosophy is it doesn't give these dopamine spikes of, man, look at what we just accomplished, right? You only can see that when you look backwards and you look at over a long period of time, but where do we come from and where are we now? But you don't really get these massive spikes that other type of management styles give you. Now, those management styles, they create an environment where it's very easy to identify success. The reality is those successes are shortly celebrated. And so yes, you get a dopamine spike, but it quickly goes away and you're operating then again in failure mode. And so while the 5-step philosophy kind of takes away that spike, you still need to learn to celebrate successes. And what that comes, the way you do that is rather than celebrating the big wins, in some respect, you could, maybe just do a quarterly celebration of, hey, let's talk about what we accomplished over the last 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, regardless of whether there was a big win or not. If you're following this and you're growing your business and you're making progress, there are all sorts of things you can talk about. There's all sorts of ways to celebrate the successes. There's all sorts of ways to frame that. It doesn't have to be like, we just, look at the sales. Like, no, you don't actually need to celebrate that. There's all sorts of things you can celebrate, when it comes to having an actual success. Okay, so the last thing here is we're going to talk about really building a team. Frankly, a good team member needs to be aligned with all the other stuff, that I talked about. So you want to hire leaders. You want to hire future leaders. Maybe they're not leaders today, but they have all of the traits that we talked about. So you need to hire people that are quote unquote like you because you are a leader, right? So hire people that have similar leadership thoughts to you, which means they should have a strong, good work ethic. They should have good communication skills or understand that communication is important. They should have a positive attitude. They should be inclusive. They should be able to adapt. They should be able to problem solve. They should be able to think strategically about where the business is going. They should understand that they need to delegate. They should understand that you are delegating. They should understand their role within the company. Now, I will say a lot of people tend to hire for skill. alone. And personally, I think that is the wrong mentality. I think if you're going to try to build culture, hiring for skill alone doesn't do it. While skill is important, you need to dig deeper and ensure that people are aligned with your vision and the way that you intend to run your company. So you need to really vet for that. And, when you ask questions, make sure that people are understanding what you're saying. So focus on that communication is really important. So that kind of gets to some of these best practices. You really defining roles and responsibilities, i.e. that delegation piece, super important. You want to be crystal clear to people about what you're doing, what they're doing, how these things fit, right? We want to provide training and development, so upward mobility, that speaks to like that vision. We want to be open communicators. We wanted to reinforce what's going on. We want to provide that feedback loop, to help build people, help people grow. I think as a business leader, that should be exciting. If you can have a business that works and you can also fuel the growth of other people's lives and other people's careers, that should have a sense of accomplishment. It isn't just about you. The minute you've hired one other person, the minute, frankly, you're even working with one other person, it's not you. That you moment of idea generation, I find that moment almost like a drug. It is that moment of conception of a business and working it on yourself, and it's just in your head. I mean, it is wonderful. No, it doesn't matter what anybody thinks about this thing. But the minute you get somebody else involved in your business, it's no longer your business, it's our business, and our business needs to work for us. So really, focusing on that and thinking about like, this person that is working for you or working with you, they have their own goals. And, figuring out how how the business can not only work for you, but work for us, is really important. Okay, so that's kind of some information around team and how you want to think about team and how you want to grow team. And I'll talk about a little bit more about this when we get to our team slide. Like I said, that's not what we're going to do this week. This week we're going to do our value proposition slide. And the reason I said value propositions, this slide shouldn't be that bad, is if we look back at our first slide, a lot of what's up here, this is pretty close to a value proposition. And I'll explain why in a second. But what I want you to focus on your value proposition slide is you want to communicate kind of the unique benefits and the value that the product delivers to customers. So unique is key. What is unique and what is the value that's delivered to customers? Okay. So why should a customer choose our product or service over others? Okay. And some key points here, you want to be clear and simple. You want to be customer centric. So this is a customer facing statement. You want to focus on your uniqueness, what makes you different. You want to have some like quantifiable benefit if you could. You want to appeal to emotion. So those are the types of things that want to go into a value proposition. And what a value proposition is again, it's essentially a statement that's focusing on what are the unique benefits and what is the unique benefits and the value of those unique benefits that are delivered to a customer. So in this case, we say our value proposition is Sprout House helps diverse health conscious parents provide their children holistic lifestyle enrichment through premium integrated outdoor childcare service. Okay, so that's the benefits are, providing holistic lifestyle enrichment. So we're providing holistic lifestyle enrichment, whatever the heck that means. Again, this is just an example, but the parents that are interested in that, we've got something for them. And what is it? It's a premium integrated outdoor childcare service. Boom. All right. That's our unique benefit. That's our unique benefits and our value prop. What our value prop is frankly, when we're talking about value here, you notice we didn't say anything about money other than it's premium. So what does that mean? They know it's expensive. Okay. So the value that we're providing is really holistic life skill enrichment. That's the value. Holistic lifestyle enrichment that they can't get anywhere else. Okay. So let's talk about maybe a couple other examples. So one example would be Stripe. If you know what Stripe is a credit card processor on the internet. It's a service that developers integrate into their applications to process your credit cards. If you've purchased anything online, you've likely used a Stripe service, whether or not you've known it. So a Stripe value proposition is Stripe makes it easy for businesses of all sizes to accept payments online with a simple, developer-friendly platform that ensures security and flexibility. All right, so there's, again, it's talking about the benefits, and then it's talking about the value that's provided. It's it's delivering its services to developers, and developers are looking for a platform that ensures security and flexibility, and it's also simple. All right, so again, we're trying to take our business, we're trying to wrap a wrapper around our business and say, what is this thing doing? Why is it unique? And what is the value that's delivered? Another one might be Slack. So Slack is where work happens. It connects teams with the channels they need, where real collaboration happens, ensuring that information is accessible and communication is seamless. So information is accessible, communication is seamless. So we're talking about the benefits, that the product provides. Another product would be Trello. Trello is a project management software. So Trello is the easy, free, and visual way to organize your projects and tasks. It adapts to your workflow, making collaboration simple and effective. All right, so we're trying to distill and say what our business is very, very simply, indicate the value that we're providing to customers. Okay, so again, you've sort of already done this up in slide 1, really describing their business. We want to go a little bit deeper now and talk about what is the value that we're providing to the customer and what is the unique proposition of our business. So what are we truly doing that's unique, and why do people care? All right, so go ahead and take a stab at this. Next week we'll be doing a business model slide that I'll talk a little bit more about how we put this together, and then we'll be doing our team slide that takes a little bit away from what we talked about today to wrap up and close up our pitch deck. All right, so wish you the best, and I will talk to you next week.